To DDRC members, staff, and guests, multiple staff members are present to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly and all applicants and citizens are able to communicate with the commission at the appropriate times.
If you're here today and like to speak about a case, please provide your name clearly into the microphone, and please be sure to sign in either at the back of the room or at the podium for documentation purposes. If you are here today to speak about a case, you must speak up when the chairperson calls for public comment. Ms. Gallo?
Here.
Ms. Jaco?
Here.
Mr. Ledecker?
Here.
Mr. McKenzie?
Here.
Mr. Salibi?
Here.
Mr. Shelton?
Here.
We have quorum.
In order to avoid ex parte communications, DDRC members are under strict instructions not to discuss cases under consideration with the public or with each other outside of the public forum. The meeting typically starts with staff calling the case, giving a summary of the project, and then calling on the applicant to present if they wish. Decisions are typically made in one evening. Decisions may be appealed within 30 days to a court of competent jurisdiction. Oaths will be administered individually as we hear either from applicants or from live speakers. Applicants with requests before the DDRC are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time does not include any questions asked by the DDRC or staff regarding request. Members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. Applicants may have 5 minutes to respond. Staff has a timer and will make presenters aware of when their time has expired. Are there any changes to the agenda?
We have a few changes to the agenda. Item number 4 under the regular agenda, 1108 Queen Street, request for construction of a single-family house in the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area A has been deferred. Likewise, 916 Walnut Street, request for design approval for construction of a single-family house in Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area, Area B. And the property adjacent to 2834 Gadsden Street, the northeast corner of Union and Gadsden Streets, which is a request for design approval for construction of 2 single-family houses in the Earlwood Protection Area, Area A, has been withdrawn.
The DDRC uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. If a member of the DDRC or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The DDRC then approves the remaining consent agenda items. Will staff please review the consent agenda?
Certainly. The first item is 3209 Michigan Street, a request for design approval for an addition in the Melrose Heights Oaklawn Architectural Conservation District. The second is 2608 Cardinal Street, a request for recommendation for individual landmark designation in the Cottontown Bellevue Architectural Conservation District. 1314 Giger Avenue, request for design approval for an addition and an outbuilding in the Cottontown Bellevue Architectural Conservation District. Also 20 Myrtle Court, request for design approval for an addition in the Wales Garden Architectural Conservation District. 1777 St. Julian Place, request for preliminary certification of the Bailey Bill for a National Register structure. 2905 Park Street, request for design approval for construction of a single-family home in the Earlwood Protection Area, Area A. 2812 Park Street, request for design approval for construction of a duplex in Earlwood Protection Area, Area A.
Is there anyone from the DDRC that would like any item removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Once it is removed, we will not be discussing it. Okay? Do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as well as the July minutes?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda and the July minutes.
Second.
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Ledecker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Salibi?
Yes.
And Mr. Sheldon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and we will move on to the regular agenda now. This is new. All right, we're going to use the following outline for the regular agenda items. As you'll see, staff's going to introduce the case. The applicant will have 10 minutes to make a presentation if they wish, and then the DDRC will ask questions, and there will be a public comment period open to those who are present and have signed up ahead of time. Then the public comment period will be closed. The applicant will have 5 minutes to respond to any of the comments. The DDRC at that point may ask additional questions of the applicant, and then we will deliberate and act amongst the commissioners. And once the DDRC begins deliberation, no additional comments will be permitted by the applicant or the public.
Thank you. So our first case is 911, 913, and 919 Gervais Street and 914 Lady Street. This is a request for design approval for exterior changes and preliminary certification of the Bailey Bill for 3 adjacent properties in the West Gervais Historic Commercial District. I think most people would recognize these buildings as the Wood-Ash buildings, which was a furniture store and had a rug gallery in the small building to the left of the main building and across the parking lot. And then the building behind Wood-Ash that fronts onto Lady Street is 914 Lady Street, which is also part of the proposal. So just to give you an idea of where the buildings are and how they relate to one another, here's a little map to show you, along with their original names. So all the buildings were built at the turn of the century, with 914 Lady Street coming along a little later, about 1918. So you can tell that there have been some alterations, but they've certainly retained their historic character, and we're really tickled that these are being redeveloped. It's going to make a huge difference on Gervais Street. So this is 911 Lady. This was originally known as the dispensary. It was the county liquor dispensary at one time, and then housed several commercial enterprises over the succeeding years. So you can see that there's a very nice cast iron storefront here. Can you go back to that? That's okay. But with a facade that's changed a little bit on the front, stuccoed over, and then brick through the back, and a later addition at the very back, it's a one-story addition. Some of the building windows have been blocked in or covered. It certainly doesn't have too much in the way of original windows left, although the window openings by and large are still there. Okay, so that's just a Sanborn map from 1919 showing you the dispensary building. At one time, it had a balcony on the front, which disappeared. I want to say it was in the 40s. It may have gone by the wayside. It was a wooden balcony, so it would have deteriorated. There were some other problems with the building. It saw some changes on the front when it failed, but by and large, as I said, it's all still present. So these are the plans. Studio 2LR is the architecture firm who's been working on this project, and these are the plans for 911 Gervais Street. They're going to replace the non-original storefront and fix the facade, reestablish a balcony on the front. It will be a metal balcony, very simple in form since we don't really know what that balcony originally looked like. We're going to open up a few windows and replace some windows, particularly on the second floor. The interior of the building is really cool. There are fireplaces on the second floor that are still there. It's pretty open with wood floors, and I believe they're going back with pressed metal tin ceilings. They used to be there, no longer present, but they're going to reestablish those inside. Uh-oh. Thank you. So 919 Gervais is the main building. It's the Wood Ash building, certainly the biggest building. And as you can see, the building has been painted. The storefront has been changed a bit over the years. The awnings have been added, but we're very fortunate. Well, excuse me, let me go back a little bit. On the picture on the right, you can see that there's been an enclosed loading dock there along the west side of the building. And now we are very fortunate that we have a photograph from 1930 that actually shows the building in a good deal of detail on its facade. So this is the photo that Studio 2LR took their cues from in terms of reestablishing the storefront for the Bailey Bill. So you can see that there's some pretty significant transom windows over the storefront. There's one main entry with a sort of canted, recessed double door entry at the center, a secondary entry to its left, and storefront to its right, and a cornice, a pretty significant cornice that's now missing. So the intent is to go back with transom and storefront to replicate what used to be there, but with a more detailed, sort of streamlined approach to reestablish those entries where they were, and to remove I think if you'll go to the next one, I think, yeah, to remove that enclosed loading dock and open it back up so that some storefront further back on the building can be established for a tenant there. Some more windows added on the second floor further back on the building, but to mirror the existing configuration of the original windows. And the intent also is to go back with some kind of a mural towards the front of the building where you see the large square. There used to be a mural in that area, so the intent is to actually remove all of the paint from the building and to go back with the mural there. So 914 Lady is the National Biscuit Company, otherwise known as Nabisco, and I believe this was always used as sort of a storage warehouse facility. It was the back end of Wood Ash, and I think they used it also for those purposes and maybe some offices. So here you can see at the top left, you can see the facade as well as the east side of the building, which really doesn't have any windows, but an interesting brick pattern. And then right below that, I believe, is the west side of the building. And then to the right is a bit further back where you can see there's an enclosed, I think that's a loading dock there as well. And so these are the plans to open the building back up on that west side, clean it up, reestablish windows there, to keep the existing garage, big garage door, to replace the front doors, which I'm not sure are original, on the facade, and to fix the windows. So moving to the exciting part of this, here are the renderings to show what this should look like as it is rehabilitated and brought back to life. So to the left, of course, is what used to be the rug gallery, with the cast iron storefront fully reestablished there and repainted, the balcony in place, new cornice, which we're still working on design details on. To the right is the Wood Ash building. You can see down the side the intent with the windows and the mural, and then a little bit more of the storefront that's intended to go back, which is really beautifully done. And they really followed faithfully what we know about the storefront from the 1930 photo. A little bit more there, a day version. And this is what's intended at the back of the Wood Ash building. So there is a sort of addition with a back roof, and the intent is to have outdoor area off the second floor at the back of the wood ash, and then to open up the first floor, as you saw earlier, with a ramping system and a covered area for people to walk to access entries on that side of the building. 914 Lady, this again shows that the loading dock and it's sort of kind of a messy, generally added onto area over the years, has been cleaned up to be a very nice looking ramping system lead to a set of double doors on the west side there. And that is staff's presentation, although we do have Studio 2LR here, as well as Todd Avant, if y'all would like to add anything. Answer questions if there are questions.
All right. How about maybe a representative come up, we'll swear you in, and then we'll open up to see if commissioners have any questions. So when you get settled, if you could state your name, please. And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding? Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments of the applicant?
I have, I think everybody's very enthusiastic about seeing this project come to fruition. I think it's going to be a huge enhancement to the historic character of the Vista. And I've really paid a lot of attention to the submittal, and I have a couple of questions that I want to get clarification on. The biggest questions I have is how you got to the reconstruction of the facade on 9/11. There's a cornice, which, see, all we have for information is the Sanborn, which shows it in plan view, and a 28-foot wooden balcony. And I don't know what other data or information you had to develop your design that really is going to respect what it was, you know, in 1920, 1930.
Reference point for the balcony, for sure. The eyebrow canopy above that was not something, as you alluded to, that we have any photographic evidence of. There are buildings in the past that have had those types of features from that era that we drew inspiration from that could have been there. We felt from a functional standpoint, it would really help that balcony be a better utilized space if it could have some kind of protection up there too. But as far as the design of that, as Amy alluded to, you know, we're still kind of figuring out what that might even be. But we felt at this point it was worth showing that, and then if it didn't happen, you know, we certainly work with staff and whoever else has concerns about that too. So
Yeah, I think that's one thing I'm going to bring up is I think you'd need to do more documentary research to really flesh this out, because I'm not sure what sources you've tapped, but since this is such a prominent location, it's really going to define, you know, what the 900 block of Gervais looks like and give visitors an impression of what this is historically. I'm hoping it's going to be as accurate as possible.
understood. And what we could do, kind of like with the 919 Gervais, you can see evidence of where the framing used to come out of the building.
You have a
So
great photo of
there's-
919, you know, and I wish you could
Well,
find
the photo
something
too, but a
comparable.
lot of these buildings you can see, actually, we're working on another project down the street from this one in the Vista as well, where there was, you can tell where there was an eyebrow sort of cornice, but it's no longer there, but you can see the evidence of the little vertical wood kind of framing members that teed into the brick. So there may, you know, with stucco, it's hard to see anything that could have been behind there at some point. So you're correct in that assumption. We don't know for sure if there was one there or not, so.
I will say this is also a state historic preservation tax credit project, so we're all working together on details on the building. So we'll be working with the SHPO staff on this. But they've done the preliminary review already on it, and I believe the thinking on this is that, as you said, that it's a common feature for the period. What exactly it looks like, we're not sure, but something typically in these cases, what we do is go with a very simplified, not very detailed reference, if you will, to what was likely an original feature there.
But the Sanborn and that undated, like, mid-20th century photo are basically what we've seen in the presentation is what we have to go on so far.
Yeah, we've done a lot of research on buildings in the West Gervais area, and there are not that many photos of that area. Like, we have a lot on Main Street over the decades. Gervais Street is a much tougher area to find photos of, and the 1930 photograph was that was a terrific find. So,
Well, thanks. I'm kind of ambivalent about mural on 919. Can you talk about what your thinking is going to be for what type of mural you're going to put on the side of the building there?
To this point, we have not discussed what type of mural. We know that there was a large signage component, painted signage component on that part of the building. We pull up that 1930s image, but yes. So we were certainly wanting to look at incorporating some public art in its place that maybe paid homage to the building and what it was and its history. So you can see here that there used to be large graphics on there, so kind of in that vein, probably some kind of historic thing. But
You're going to try to reference a historic type of advertisement or?
let the owner chime in on that, but that would be something that we would certainly have to go through and vet out what that is, what's appropriate for that facade.
and I'll be honest, we don't typically get involved in the content of art, what that's going to look like on a building, at least in past projects. So that's sort of its own thing.
Yeah, well, it's, you see a lot of really modern stuff going up and down Gervais Street, and I think that would be a distraction. But attempting to create something that we have no idea what it's, you have a little bit of idea there, but I don't know. Just
Art is very subjective. I get it. Yeah. So
well, thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, no. Any other questions or comments of commissioners? Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. To me, it definitely is a huge improvement from what's there now. I think it's going to be a good reuse of the space. And I guess one comment I would add, one thing we have done in the past is we could put a requirement on the mural that they work with One Columbia. That's something we have done in the past if we wanted to tack on that requirement.
That's interesting. Any comment on that, staff? Is that typically what we've done in the past, or no?
I haven't run into that a lot, but you're probably thinking about urban design projects. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right, interesting.
We could make a suggestion that the owner could explore that without making it a requirement.
Yeah,
I'm totally fine with that.
yeah, well, that's very interesting.
And
Yes,
I would like to add, too, that we received 2 letters of support for the project from the Vista Guild, I believe, and the Vista homeowners from you guys. Okay.
sure, if you'd like to speak, come on up and state your name, please.
Todd Avant.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
Just a couple things to add. I think the cornice was there per SHPA research along the balcony, but you're right, we couldn't find any pictures or details. But according to our Part 1 approved by SHPA, they did confirm, and they have the research, and I think I sent it to y'all. So there was, in fact, a cornice at 911 Gervais, and then we all know there was a balcony. Just unfortunately, we can't find any pictures of what they look like. And then the mural, we've got to get working on the design of the mural. I would say big picture, I would like the mural, we don't see it as an advertisement for any of the tenants in the building. I'd like it to be a nod to all the history of the West Gervais district. I've got an example I'd be glad to.
Seriously, I cringe when I see this
No.
postcard. Well, it's such a cliche. I don't know, I'm sorry.
But yeah, I guess in general, we would like for the mural to reflect a lot of the history in the West Gervais district. And that's a new construction mural, but I like how they incorporated a lot of the stuff. But we haven't engaged a mural
Yeah, I've
in the
seen so
process.
many of the postcard, welcome to Las
Right,
Vegas.
sure,
Welcome
sure.
to West Columbia, so.
Any other questions of commissioners, comments? All right, thank you.
I'll mix that mural off.
Yeah, no, this is an exciting project. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Did we have anybody sign up for any public comment? Is anybody here to speak from the public on the project? Okay. All right. With that, I want to open it up then, and somebody wants to make a motion.
All right, bear with me, this is a long one. I'll make a motion to grant preliminary certification for Baileyville for the project, including the buildings located at 911 Gervais Street, 919 Gervais Street, 914 Lady Street, and 913 Gervais Street, in keeping with section 17-2.5Y of the city ordinance, with the following conditions: that the project meet or exceed 20% investment threshold required for qualified rehabilitation expenses, that all work meet the standards for work as outlined in section 17-2.5Y, that the specifications of cleaning methods for all buildings be reviewed and approved by staff, that signage for all buildings be deferred to staff, specifically with regard to the building at 911 Gervais Street, that details and placement of the proposed cornice to be reviewed and approved by staff, and that the review of conditions of the existing windows by staff, and if approved, that specifications including profiles, pane configuration, and glass transparency be of all new aluminum clad wood windows, and that additional details be reviewed and approved by staff. With regard to the building at 919 Gervais Street, that details of the cornice, transom windows, and entry doors be reviewed by staff, and that specifications, including profiles, pane configuration, and glass transparency of all new aluminum clad windows and storefront systems be reviewed and approved by staff. With regard to the building at 914 Lady Street, specifications, including profiles, pane configuration, and glass transparency of all new aluminum clad windows and storefront systems be reviewed and approved by staff. And bear with me because the staff recommendation for 913 Gervais isn't here, but I'll wing it. That with regard to the building at 913 Gervais Street, details and placement of the proposed, oh yikes.
It's included already. That's actually part of the parking lot that's there. So it's just included as part of the project. So you don't have to.
All right.
Right.
Well, in that case, that concludes my motion.
Second.
I guess a point of order, do we need to, I know we had that motion for the certificate or the preliminary certification for the Bailey bill. Did you also make the motion for the certificate of design approval for exterior changes?
I don't believe that was part of the application, was it? Is it?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's part of the Bailey bill is part of the beginning of the motion.
Yeah, I think the motion was for the preliminary certification of the Bailey bill. I don't think the motion included
Oh,
the
interesting. Yeah,
certificate of design
sorry, I was
approval.
looking at the nature of the request. Yes, the motion does include certification or granting the request for certificate of design approval for exterior changes.
I'll second that.
Thank you, good clarification.
Thank you, Josh.
Madam Chair, excuse me, when could I offer an amendment to that? After we vote, or?
I guess, what do we need to do? Rules, probably
I
vote?
think now the motion has been made and seconded, but
Yeah.
but an additional motion, I don't know, I guess now that it's been seconded,
If it's already been seconded,
I think we might need to vote and then do an amendment on it. I think that's the proper order.
is it too late to amend it though with a second?
I'm gonna look to my attorney over here.
Sorry, give us a second.
maybe following the second, we can still discuss, and maybe a new motion can be made.
Again. So we're thinking that perhaps an amendment could be made at this point if you choose. You'd have to hear the amendment and then
Okay,
see.
I would only offer one amendment under 911 Gervais to have the applicant conduct additional research to inform the design of the balcony and the cornice.
Does anybody, do we need a second on an amendment?
I think you would,
Yeah.
yes.
So does anybody want to second the amendment? Which I understood is just any additional research that can be done to verify the vision of the change that
Yeah,
we're talking
just
about.
make
Okay,
it
yes.
explicit, yeah.
All right.
Just to be clear, it's a recommendation, right? You're not suggesting they have to do additional research?
It's a-
I mean, it sounds like they've already done an extensive amount of research and, to SHPA's and staff's.
It doesn't sound to me like there has been a lot of research. That's my point, that more could be done and should be done.
Okay, I'm going to keep my amendment as originally stated.
Your
Or I'm sorry,
motion?
my motion as originally stated.
All right. Well, let's vote on the original motion, then we'll come to the amendment. Okay, let's do that. I think that's what we have to do, that's what it sounds like. True? Yeah,
Having consulted Robert's Rules of
I
Order.
know, right?
Yeah, nobody seconded the amendment, right?
No one seconded. Was the concern with the way it was worded mainly? Or just to continue the research? Or there was one concern that there's not enough research, I guess, is the concern the commissioner has right here. So I'm just,
Yeah, and I guess that can be seconded.
okay.
My understanding, my guess on this is that you would have to second the amendment in order for it to pass. If no one seconds it, then you would just, I would say, restate the original motion and vote on that.
Okay.
Well, then I'll give some time for my fellow commissioners to second if they so wish.
Sure. All right, okay, so if there's no second, then we're back to the original motion. And we had a second, so we'll vote.
All right. Ms. Jaco?
Yes?
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Ledecker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Salibi?
Yes.
And Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
That was some good mental Robert Rules of Orders. All right, next case.
All right, so this is 1427 Haygood Avenue. It's a contributing building to the Melrose Heights Oaklawn Architectural Conservation District. This is an appeal to a staff decision regarding unapproved driveway changes. This property had an existing driveway that was approved back in 2022. In early 2025, staff noticed that the existing driveway had been widened into a parking pad in the front yard, and the applicant is now requesting to keep the driveway as is. Staff has had conversations with the property owner over the years regarding driveway regulations. When they got their original approval for a driveway in 2022, staff went out to the property and discussed a width limitation of 12 feet per the ordinance. The owner did state a desire to have a parking pad at that point as well. However, when staff explained the ordinance language, the limit to 12 feet, the application that eventually came through for this driveway was 10 feet wide. And that was approved and subsequently constructed at 10 feet wide. Staff heard from the property owner again at the end of 2023 when they reached out to report a front yard parking pad that was installed at another home in the neighborhood. Staff followed up on the other unapproved parking pad, and as is our procedure, they were sent a violation letter. It took a while going back and forth to get that one resolved. Tried to get it to the DDRC a few times. However, they eventually did just remove the excess parking area without going to DDRC. Parking pad requests are not uncommon in historic districts, but they have never been approved by staff unless they are behind the front corner of a house. In all instances, when unapproved parking pads have been brought to the DDRC, they have been denied and subsequently removed by the property owners. There are a couple instances in Melrose, 1211 Shirley Street back in 2017. They installed a parking pad in the front yard. DDRC denied the request, and they eventually removed the excess parking material. 2805 Bratton Street was back in 2023. They are the ones who installed a parking pad without permission, and they eventually removed the excess driveway material. In other historic districts, 117 Lincoln Street, which is in Whaley, they had a parking pad installed back in 2019. DDRC denied their request to keep it, and it was eventually removed. And then more recently, 3430 Earlwood Drive in Earlwood came to DDRC in September 2023 with a request to keep a parking pad that was installed without approval, and the request was denied by the DDRC, and the excess driveway material was removed. The standards for driveways and vehicular parking areas is part of the city ordinance, part of the UDO, rather than individual guidelines for historic districts. This is section 17-2.5 G6E. First standard states, unless showing of extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the piece of property can be shown, the amount of allowable area paved for the use of driveway or vehicular parking area shall be limited to a width of 12 feet, measured with a straight line that runs parallel to the front or secondary front lot line. It's not uncommon for homeowners to request additional parking space beyond the 12-foot width. However, staff's first recommendation is always to extend the driveway into the backyard and create a parking pad behind the house. There is a garage behind 1427 Haygood, which shows that originally cars would have been parking in the backyard. Alternatively, parking at the street could be an option. The applicant has stated safety concerns at the street, but there are no curbs here, and landscaping and hardscaping could be installed that would make a safe route to the front door. Sorry, this is the original driveway that was there. I just don't have a picture of it. And this is now. Standard 2 for driveways states the designated vehicular parking area or driveway shall be placed so as to minimize its visual impact on the primary structure. This driveway is located to the far right of the property, but due to the excess width of the parking area, it does come partly in front of the house. Reducing the width to 12 feet or the original 10 feet and avoid placement in front of the house would minimize its visual impact. Standard 3 states driveways and vehicular parking areas shall be compatible with the existing building and the site and setting of the historic district. It also states that appropriate materials for this district are brick pavers, granite, and concrete. The materials of the parking pad are in keeping with the ordinance language. However, the parking area is not compatible with the setting of the historic district because the typical historic patterns are for singular driveways to be located to the sides of the house. There are a few examples that do not conform to this prevailing pattern, but they were installed before the designation of the district in 2003. While staff is sympathetic to ADA issues and encourages exploring modification that will allow property owners to age in place, all options should be carefully considered before changes are made. The installation of a parking pad in the front yard is not the only solution here that allows for easy and safe access onto the property. Allowing for a modification that very clearly does not meet the ordinance language would set a precedent that would then be applicable to dozens of other similar properties within historic districts. So for staff recommendation, staff finds that the unapproved change to the driveway at 1427 Haygood Avenue is not in keeping with section 17-2.5 G6E of the UDO and recommends denial. Furthermore, staff recommends the removal of the excess parking area within 90 days. And this is just some additional photos that were submitted by the applicant.
So staff, I just want to clarify, on the original application, they did have it meet the guidelines, but when the project was done, it was.
Sorry, no, they installed a driveway in 2022-ish, and then in 2025 is when staff went out to the property or to the neighborhood and just noticed that this parking pad had been installed without any further review from staff.
And at the initial application for the driveway, did you mention that they had spoken to you beforehand?
Yes, I went out to the property. I talked with at least one of the property owners about how there are limitations to what we can approve and recommended taking it into the backyard.
That was prior to the driveway being poured.
Yes.
All right, is the applicant here? Does anybody wish to speak on this project? I don't know, okay. All right,
Yeah, the applicant did provide a couple letters that are in the packet.
yeah. I mean, I think what you're confirming for us is the applicant did understand what the requirements are.
Yeah,
And
they
then
were
chose
aware.
not to do them.
They were
Okay,
aware.
I just want to make sure I'm following. All right. All right. Does anybody from the public here to speak on this project? Okay. All right. I'm going to ask if anyone has a motion.
I was going to make some comments, I guess,
yeah,
here
go ahead.
for the motion. So I guess I've been kind of thinking heavy on this case this week. I live in this neighborhood. I do view myself as someone who believes in the goals of preservation. Personally, I don't think that the ordinance that's in place today necessarily advances those goals, but what I do think is clear in this case is the facts of the applicant knew beforehand that they were doing something in violation of the rules, and they've also been asking others to be held to a standard that they didn't necessarily hold themselves to.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really clear-cut example of setting a precedent here, yeah, in my opinion, but anyway. All right, thank you. All right, open it up for a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend denial to the unapproved changes that have been made to the driveway at 1427 Haygood Avenue, and further recommend that the non-conforming parking pad be removed within 90 days.
Second.
Can you state the section of the ordinance?
Yeah, but if you don't mind, just state the address and the section too, yeah.
So added to the motion, I'll make it again. So I make a motion that the unapproved changes to the driveway at 1427 Haygood Avenue be removed as they are not in keeping with section 17-2.5 G6E of the Unified Development Ordinance, and recommend that the unapproved changes be removed within 90 days.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes?
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Ledecker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Salibi?
Yes.
And Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next case.
The next case is 2332 Stark Street. This is a request for a certificate of design approval for demolition of a duplex. This is in the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area, Area A.
All right, so first of all, I'll say that demolition is something that is taken very seriously, so we have a lot of ground to cover in this one, so just bear with me as we read through it all. So this is a one-story wood frame duplex that was constructed in around 1940. It is a long rectangular house that's divided down the middle with one unit on each side of the building. It features a front gable roof and one-story front porch with a shed roof and exposed rafter tails. The house is currently clad in masonite siding with original wood lap siding underneath. This is a common architectural form in this section of the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area, contributing to an established pattern that is a character-defining element of the district. There was a fire in the front rooms of the duplex in the spring of this year, and it has been vacant since that time. The fire caused considerable damage to the front facade, party wall, and roof of the front portion of the house, but the majority of the structure remains intact. Staff has visited the house and walked through it safely. We are recommending denial of the request to allow for demolition of the structure. In addition to the physical condition of the house, this is a non-conforming lot, and the construction of a new duplex with the same design as the current building would be very difficult to be compliant with the district guidelines, building code, and zoning requirements that we have in place today. The existing duplex is approximately 28 feet across and sits extremely close to the lot lines, roughly 4.5 feet on the east side of the house and less than 2 feet on the west side. The lot is long and rectangular with the narrow end facing the street. It is a total size of 5,555 square feet. Current code and zoning requirements call for a minimum of a 5-foot setback from the lot lines. Any new construction here would have to have a significantly narrower house to be able to meet those setbacks. A single-family house would be allowed by zoning, but another duplex would be very difficult to pass with the current zoning today. The proximity to its neighbors would also necessitate using costly fire-rated materials on the east and west sides of the house. If it has less than a 5-foot setback from the lot line, it needs to have those fire-rated materials. The current house does not have a driveway or off-street parking, which would also be required with new construction. The applicant did not provide many of the materials required to be reviewed in order to grant a certificate of design approval, as outlined by the Unified Development Ordinance. Without this information, and based on the current condition of the building and its significance as a contributing structure in the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area, Area A, staff finds that the house at 2332 Stark Street does not qualify for demolition under the standards in Article 2, Section 17-2.5C of the UDO and recommends denial. Staff does find that this house would be an excellent candidate for the Bailey Bill program. The current value of the structure is listed at $91,600, resulting in an $18,320 investment threshold for the Bailey Bill program, which would be far less than the cost of building a new structure there, and it would be a greater return on investment with that financial structure. So pertinent sections from the guidelines. Section 4, guidelines for demolition. Number 1, principles. The demolition of a historic building should be an action of last resort. When a structure is demolished, the community loses a part of its history, which cannot be replaced. Accordingly, such requests are reviewed very deliberately and require detailed information. 2, guidelines. A, demolition of contributing buildings is not permitted if one of the following exists. First, the building or major portion of a building is of such architectural interest and value that its removal would be detrimental to the public interest. This is a contributing building to the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area and is part of an established pattern of long, low, one-story bungalows and cottages in this section of the district. It retains many original features such as exposed rafter tails and wood cladding. 2, the building or major portion of a building is of such old or unusual, uncommon design and materials that it could not be reproduced. While this design could technically be reproduced, it would be very difficult to build back the same type of house, the same style of house and size of house on the current lot due to the code and zoning requirements. These modern requirements state that any structure built with less than a 5-foot setback has to be built with fire-rated materials and fewer openings on the east and west facades, which could result in a design that is out of compliance with the guidelines. A driveway would also need to be installed, which would be challenging to do on this lot. B, demolition is permitted in the following situations. 1, the structure is not judged to contribute significantly to the historic or architectural character of the district, and its removal will result in a more historically appropriate visual effect of the district. The building does contribute to the historic and architectural character of the district. It is part of a pattern of small, modest cottages and houses that were built during the period of significance. 2, the building has irretrievably lost its architectural and historical integrity, and removing its removal will result in a more historically appropriate visual effect. The building has experienced some exterior changes, however, most original features remain intact, as does the overall form of the house. Its original wood cladding was largely protected from the fire by the masonite siding that is on the front of the building. You can see it a little bit more on the right side photograph, sort of on the corner of the building. Some of the original wood is visible, and when we went out to see it, in the gable, the section that was burned is all masonite, and the original wood underneath was not damaged during the fire. Pertinent section from the city ordinance, section 17-2.5, the review process. E, criteria for review of requests for demolition permits. The following criteria shall be used as a guideline for the DDRC or its staff for review of all requests for demolition permits. The commission may require the applicant to provide certain information dealing with the criteria. The type of information which may be required is detailed in the commission's rules and regulations. However, only that information which is reasonably available to the owners may be required. Number 1, the historic or architectural significance of a building, structure, or object. This house was built sometime around 1940 and was one of 4 identical duplexes that were built on this street. You can see the Sanborn map here. That's 1950 Sanborn map, and it shows that these buildings were built together on the same lot. So where you see that large lot with 4 duplexes there, this is the one that's lowest on the bottom, towards the bottom of the screen. Today, this is the only one of these buildings that's remaining intact. These were likely built as tenant housing for African-American laborers. An advertisement from the state newspaper in 1953 listed it for rent in the For Colored section of the classifieds ad. This style of segregated workers' housing would have been a common practice in this neighborhood and in the mid-20th century, and is an important historical element of the district. Number 2, determination of whether the subject property is capable of earning a reasonable economic return on its value without the demolition, with consideration being given to economic impact to the property owner of the subject property. The current condition of the property would require renovations and repairs to make the house habitable and safe for future tenants. The city building official stated that it would need to be reframed from the bottom plate up to meet code compliance, which is costly but can be done. The estimate provided by the applicant for renovation is $116,500. Estimates for new construction are quoted as $221,000 in one bid and $231,000 on another bid. So this is the renovation cost is provided by the applicant. And it is interesting, I will note that there is a discrepancy in the property value based on the Richland County website. This case was originally intended to come forward last month, and when I looked it up last month, it had a different value than what it had when I looked it up 2 days ago. So that is a Richland County thing, just acknowledge. Yes, it has been reassessed. That is up to Richland County, not us, but either way, it is a low threshold to meet the Bailey Bill requirements. Repairing the house using the Bailey Bill would result in a higher return on investment, as the current property value is low and property taxes would be fixed at the current rate for 20 years. Number 3, the importance of the building, structure, or object to the ambiance of a district. That's the other bit right there. As a contributing property, this building adds to the overall ambiance of the district. While it is a simple style of house, it is very much in keeping with the traditional pattern of the district. There has been a high rate of new construction projects being built in the neighborhood, particularly on this street and the one behind it. This makes it more important than ever to protect the existing historic structures on the block. These are some of the surrounding buildings, just for some context. On the left is the house in question and a neighboring house next door, and then the other one is a house across the street. Number 5. Whether there are definite plans for reuse of the property if the proposed demolition is carried out, and what the effect of those plans on the character of the surrounding area would be. If the demolition is approved, the applicant intends to build a new single-family house on the property. A possible design has been submitted and is included in the packet. The proposed site plan shows an 18-foot wide single-family home with a 10-foot driveway to the left and a 5-foot setback on the right. This would meet code and zoning requirements, and it would not need fire rating materials because it is off the setbacks far enough. The design of the proposed house does not meet the design guidelines and would need significant revisions to come into compliance. So the site plan is in meeting with the guidelines and the code and the zoning regulations, but the design that was submitted would not be something that we would approve under the current guidelines. Additionally, there have been numerous new construction projects in this part of the district, making it even more important to maintain the existing historic building stock on this block wherever possible, in order to preserve the historic character of the district. Number 6, the existing structural condition, history of maintenance, and use of the property, whether it endangers public safety and whether the city is requiring its demolition. The building has clearly sustained damage from the fire earlier this year, but it has not been deemed to be endangering public safety, and the city is not currently requiring its demolition. Number 7, whether the building or structure is able to be relocated and whether a site for relocation is available. Staff believes it could be possible to relocate the building, but it would be difficult due to the damage from the fire. There are other vacant lots in the property, but this is not an option that staff or the applicant has explored further than this. Number 8, whether the building or structure is under orders from the city to be demolished due to severe structural deficiencies. It is not under the order to be demolished, even though it does have damage to it. Section 2, certificate of design approval for historic districts and landmarks for demolition of a building or structure. A, detailed written estimates of the cost of renovation from professionals with experience working with historic buildings. Neither of the two estimates provided were from professionals with a documented experience working with historic buildings that we know of. B, a detailed written report from an engineer, architect, or contractor experienced with historic buildings as to the structures on the property and its suitability for rehabilitation. No such report was provided. C, the estimated market value of the property in its current condition after demolition, after renovation of the existing property for continued use, and with the proposed redevelopment. Some of these materials were provided and are in the packet. They were provided by the applicant, and they were not conducted by real estate professionals or a property assessor. Property values that are here are based off of the Richland County website. D, an estimate from an architect, developer, real estate consultant, appraiser, or other real estate professional experienced in rehabilitation as to the economic feasibility of rehabilitation or reuse of the existing structures on the property. No such report or estimate was provided. A bid was provided for rehabilitation, but it was not highly detailed, and we do not know if that is including fire-rated materials, which would be needed for the renovation. The proposed design for new construction is not compatible with the guidelines as far as the design goes, so the estimates provided are not reliable estimates to the cost of building a compliant house. Section F. Specific written substantiation of any current negotiations to sell, rent, buy, or lease the property. This was not provided. And G, all appraisals obtained within the previous 2 years by the owner or applicant. This was also not provided. So staff recommendation is, staff finds that the duplex at 2332 Stark Street does not meet the criteria for demolition as stated in Section 4 of the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area Guidelines and Section 17-674E of the City Ordinance and Section 17-2.5C of the UDO. Recommends denial of the request for a certificate of design approval for demolition. Staff recommends that the owner apply to have the house certified for the Bailey Bill tax abatement program to offset the cost of repairing the house and stabilize its local tax rate for the next 20 years. And that's all. So yes, you can see in a little more detail here, the photograph on the right. There is damage to the roof. There is a hole that is there close to the chimney. But you can also see the masonite is what is blistered in the gable section, and there is a little bit of wood visible below that, and that is the original material of the house. These are surrounding houses, so it is not a showy or very decorative structure, but it is typical of what is in the district. So that's it.
Lots of information there. Any questions of commissioners, of staff before we move up? Is the applicant here and do they wish to speak?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Would you like to come on up, please? Hi, when you can, state your name, please.
Frank Mitchell.
And do you swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Mitchell, and I am the owner of 2332 Stark Street. I am a licensed general contractor, a licensed residential builder, and a licensed real estate broker. I got over 40 years of construction and quite a bit of work with the city of Columbia on historic building. I've even been given the key to the city by Mayor Benjamin for providing housing in the city of Columbia. I am requesting the demolition of this building for the following reasons. One, this building is a common architectural type building located in a protected area. There's nothing historical about the building, nothing unique, no landmark. And page 1, the last paragraph, the building is non-conforming to the existing zoning laws. The lot size of the building, the lot size is 33 by 175, which is a total square foot of about 5,700 square feet. The zoning is a mixed use between residential and multifamily. And the square footage for multifamily is 7,500 square feet. So the existing building is not in compliance. It's also setback. Zoning laws require 5 feet setback on each side of the building. This building setback is 4 point something feet on one side and 3 feet on the other side, which is non-compliance. Also, there's no parking. The only parking is on-street parking, and which is a problem on Stark Street because of the new construction, the existing building with no parking. There is a parking problem on Stark Street. Also, page 2, the last paragraph on the guidelines, it says the economic costs to repair, replace matching material that doesn't exist. As stated, masonite cover the existing wood. They don't make masonite siding anymore, and of course, the wood that is covered is not available. So the cost of trying to maintain that type of exterior veneer is too expensive. Along with, the house was maybe 50% damaged by fire, which means that the cost of the electrical, the plumbing, HVAC, fireproof doors and windows, cabinetry, all those things have to be replaced. And again, the cost would not be efficient. My request to demolish this building and construct a new single-family structure, which is a driveway for rear parking, proper building setback, eliminate fireproofing construction material, which there's no description or specification for fireproof windows or fireproof doors, while at the same time complying with the zoning and building code regulations. Building bill may not be an incentive or benefit to this project because real estate taxes are deductible expenses from income. In summary, this building is not an historical, architectural, or landmark or unique building. There are several multi-story buildings, new construction buildings all around the area on Stark Street and surrounding. The only uniqueness, paragraph 3, page 3, paragraph 1, under the pertinent section, people of color did not own any houses in that area. They were built for segregated African-American laborers. Based upon those regulations, based upon what staff wrote, I request that the certificate of demolition be issued. Thank you.
Any questions to the applicant from commissioners?
Have you spoken with the affected neighborhood association to get their input?
No, I have not.
Because they have been pretty vocal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've discussed this with staff, but you're aware that the plans you've provided for the new construction do not meet the guidelines.
Well, I'm under the understanding that whatever I present will be reviewed by the staff. The picture that I sent was basically what I wanted was the width of the building, which is 18 feet to allow me in the driveway. The front elevation can be changed to accommodate whatever regulation there is. Finding a perfect drawing, a perfect plan to present, it's hard to find an 18-foot building. So what I would do would be to present something to the staff, let them review it, and make whatever changes or recommendation they may say.
Thank you. And that kind of leads in, I also had a similar question for staff. Are these two separate requests? One being the request for the demolition, the second being certificate of design approval for new construction?
Right now, it's just for demolition. We would be able
Okay,
to work with
okay.
the applicant on a design if that is where we go from here.
I think the point, though, is a context to show the new construction versus the potential cost of rehabilitating this historic building. And it is historic. It was 1940, so just on principle of age, it's historic. But I think, so to your point, I just wanted to clarify. So we're showing a renovation potential cost of $116,500, if I'm reading this right, versus a new construction of $231 or so, something along that lines?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Those are the two bids that came in for new construction. And this was, on the left is the bid for renovation.
You just refresh me again. I know we read the source of the bids, please.
The applicant provided the renovation cost, I believe, and one of the two bids, and then the other one came from Bethel Construction.
Which are similar, okay.
Yeah, and I would just, I guess, add, they would be two separate hearings. So there is a risk that if it was approved to be demolished, you very well could have a vacant lot, which to me would be very detrimental to the neighborhood. And as mentioned earlier, the neighborhood association for this affected area has been very vocal about losing the homes that are of this historic nature.
Well, I mean, and just for precedent, I mean, typically when demolition's even considered, it's like a cost benefit of new construction versus renovation. And I guess that's where I'm going back to in my mind, trying to sort it, Any other questions of the applicant from commissioners?
That's just a point of clarity. So we're saying that you could renovate the existing building as non-conforming to current zoning, but it can be repaired in place and remain.
Yes, it can be. There is a slight issue of the timeline because it has been vacant since the fire, which I believe was in March, and it can only go a year being vacant before it would lose its certificate of occupancy, or it would have to go through the compliance process again and come back into new compliance after it's been unused for 1 year. So that is a little bit of a time frame issue with renovating the current building. Also, the current building, since it has such narrow setbacks, would need that fire-rated material on the two sides of the building.
So he would just...
One correction, though, the fire was in January 2025.
So construction would just need to begin before whatever that 1 year mark is?
Right, just if it's going to be renovated, yeah.
Hunter, is your point that if he were to repair as opposed to demolish, if the applicant were to repair as opposed to demolish and rebuild, that he would be able to kind of grandfather in the non-conforming uses, which would allow him I guess, more liberal use of the property.
I guess I just wanted to understand if that was the case. Because zoning is being brought up as a reason to tear it down, but it's allowed to stay.
It's allowed to stay as is if the current building stays and is repaired within a year. And it is a duplex right now. So it would not, for new construction, zoning would not allow a duplex, but they would allow a single-family home. So there's a little difference in how it could be used, but you could build something else there.
But what's intended is to rebuild a single-family home, is that correct?
Single-family home.
But now we're just speaking amongst ourselves, which is fine. Is zoning even pertinent to the conversation if it's an historic structure? I mean, the question is, and I'm asking because I'm trying to understand myself, the question is if a historic structure should be kept or not. Is that right? Okay, I'm just, somebody help me out here. I mean, I understand the nuances, I'm just trying to understand the real question here.
Yeah, and I would add what Betsy said about having to use fire-rated materials. That's where
Yeah.
because that contributes to, the rehabilitation costs. But it's just a good thing to understand about keeping the historic building there.
Understood.
Yeah, that zoning requires.
Yes, I know zoning is not our concern here. It's already zoned for mixed use, which would allow for single family. And I know plenty of duplexes have been converted to single family and vice versa. So in theory, the renovation of this home could go to single family if the applicant wanted to, right?
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant while they're speaking? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I will caution, this is just kind of a
Yeah.
comment for the benefit of the commissioners. One of the first projects we considered when I joined the commission was I think a house, y'all had a name for it, was like the Bubble House or something like that. It was a house just off of Rosewood that had some interesting aesthetics going on. And they had applied for a demolition, I think, and commission prior to my tenure denied that. And so it sat vacant for, 5 years, ultimately getting into a state of disrepair where we approved demolition. So I guess, and I understand Josh's point about the undesirability of a vacant lot, but I think a burned out vacant building would also be undesirable.
But is that what we're wrestling with here? I think the applicant is saying, do I need to fix what's there or can I build something new? I mean, I'm not hearing, but again,
I guess my question.
I don't even think it's even pertinent to what we're determining today, even though I hear what you're saying.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, unintended consequences, pragmatism, all that, sure.
Yeah. And I'm going to comment back to the commissioner. We've heard a lot from this group, the neighborhood association, about concerns of losing historic structure and fabric in the community. So I'm kind of surprised they're not here tonight because they certainly have come to a lot of other meetings. Okay. Any other comments or thoughts? All right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to deny the approval of demolition of a duplex located at 2332 Stark Street in the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area, Area A.
Second.
Could you cite the sections?
Yes. The affected or pertinent regulations around this property are Section 4 of the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area Design Guidelines and Section 17-674E of the City Ordinance and Section 17-2.5C of the Unified or UDO.
Second again.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Ledecker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Salibi?
Yes.
And Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Anything else on our other business tonight? No? Good. All right. Does anyone like to give a motion to adjourn?
So moved.